It's not relevant to anything, but yes.
Well, whatever the time is, it's always a timeless experience with Mr. Andrew Lessman. I'm thrilled we get to talk about CoQ10. This is something I know you adore like I do. Andrew, I will never ever live a day without taking CoQ10. Common sense form of energy, there's no doubt about it. One of the things that I always experience reading the reviews, people talk about a youthful vitality. Is that something you've read?
Well, if you read the reviews, they talk about vitality. They just talk about a feeling of well-being.
Yes.
And that's kind of what you hear most often. And I think when you properly speak to energy, they have all these 2-hour, 3-hour, 10-hour energy drinks or whatever they are. They're stimulant-based, and caffeine is a stimulant. Certainly it's going to give you feelings of energy, but as quickly as they arrive, they're going to depart. This approaches energy differently because, as I said, the most common sense approach to energy is to look at, okay, we've got trillions of cells in our body. If we want to just feel energy quickly, take a stimulant which is going to affect our central nervous system, affect our endocrine system, and then in the future we're going to kind of crash a little bit afterwards. If you want to think about energy in really a proper, logical fashion, think about, okay, how do we go about enhancing the efficiency with which we produce energy in all of the cells in our body, the efficiency with which our key organs in our body can produce energy? That, to me, is the most logical and common sense approach to energy production. And that's exactly where coenzyme Q10 comes in, because coenzyme Q10 is, and I always mention this, and I'm not sure if you're watching me, if you find this as sort of as curious as I do, that we all think of our lives, and philosophers and writers and have talked about human life and very passionately.
Right.
But as passionately and as emotionally as we speak about human life, all of human life boils down to the movement of electrons within our cells. The electron transport, that movement of electrical potential between molecules like key molecule CoQ10, that's the energy that defines human experience. To me, I find it strange to think about this life which I cherish and love and enjoy is all the result of some little electrons moving around in my cells. And each one of those cells is responsible for the energy I experience, for my ability to do this, your ability to do whatever you're doing at home right now. So to me, it's just a curious process. And when you distill that process down to its key component, you inevitably arrive at coenzyme Q10. And coenzyme Q10, some people might say, well, it's really not a vitamin. You're going to talk about your essential one. That I understand. Those are the vitamins and minerals that we need, without which we can't live, we can't do anything. But coenzyme Q10 is the same. Without CoQ10, you couldn't produce energy. Without CoQ10 in a cell in your body, that cell's not alive. If you don't have CoQ10, you're not alive. So CoQ10 technically is a vitamin, technically, and the reason why there's a subtle difference that says it isn't. Your body can make a little bit of CoQ10. If your body couldn't make CoQ10, it would absolutely be the top vitamin, the #1 most important vitamin in our body, because of its importance to every key organ and the role it plays in our cells. But our body can make a little bit. Once we reach about 30, the levels decline, and decline steadily. If we're under stress, if we smoke, if we drink alcohol, if we take medications, statin drugs, cholesterol-lowering drugs, the most popular drugs, lower our CoQ10 levels. Drugs for osteoporosis, bisphosphonates, lower our CoQ10 levels. Even things like antidepressants, antihypertensive, beta blockers, they also lower our CoQ10 levels. So it's basically a conspiracy to lower those CoQ10 levels, making CoQ10 even more of a very true vitamin. Very much a vitamin. So again, that is why this product, we started talking about the reviews and feelings of well-being. When you get caffeine or a stimulant, that's really just a spike of energy.
Yes.
When you get the kind of energy that this provides, you describe it as a feeling of well-being, a general feeling of well-being. It's not a spike of energy. It affects how efficiently your organs work. It affects how efficiently the trillions, and again, as I said, I think of someone like, might have been J.P. Getty or someone like that who said it, but he said, he said something like, I'd rather have 1/10 or 1% of the labors of 10,000 people than 100% of my own.
There you go.
And I'd rather improve the efficiency of all the trillions of cells in my body by 1/10 of 1% than spike the feeling of energy in my nervous system or in my hormonal endocrine system. So that's the logic behind this product.
It's a life-changing product. It's a game changer in every respect. Tonight with our extra special savings, you can see 30 capsules, 60, 120 or 240 are available. Savings really significant. This is a natural non-synthetic form. Andrew actually was one of those pioneers of bringing CoQ10 really to the masses here on HSN many, many years ago. It is, in our opinion, certainly mine, the finest form. If you feel that every day it's a little bit of a drag and you feel that you don't have as much energy, you have to try this. I wouldn't be able to get through a day without Andrew's CoQ10. Thank you for your calls and your orders. Stay right there. We are going to keep on going this way because I bet I can say something that will pique your interest. Good for you chocolate, huh? I know.